Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of Congregational Humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. I'm David Breeden, Senior Minister. Welcome.
Good morning, friends. I'm Allison Wyeth, Director of Religious Education for First Unitarian Society here in Minneapolis, and I'm very happy to be with you here this morning. So gather round and settle in for our Time for All Ages. As you know, our city and country have been rocked by a number of events that reminded some folks in the world that racism, white supremacy culture, and anti-Blackness exist and are terribly unjust. You might have noticed lots of talk in our congregation, in the media, and even in your own household about the need to work for racial justice. For our youth of color, very little of these concerns are really news. But for our white youth, they might create a new or greater awareness. The book I'm about to share with you starts with the words of author Toni Morrison about racism. She says, white people have a very, very serious problem, and they should start thinking about what they can do about it. So our story today is an attempt to help our white youth do just that. But don't worry, we'll close out the story with a message for us all. Adapted from Not My Idea, a book about whiteness by Anastasia Higginbotham. When grown-ups try to hide scary things from kids, oh no, not again. What, Mom, what, not again? It's usually because they're scared too. Who is that with their hands up? Why is that policeman screaming at him? Bang, bang. They want to bury the truth. Click. You don't need to worry about this. You're safe. Understand? No. Our family is kind to everyone. We don't see color. Deep down, we all know color matters. Skin color makes a difference in how the world sees you and in how you see the world. It makes a difference in how much trouble seems to find you or let you be. In stores, in cars, on sidewalks, at school, your skin color affects the most ordinary daily experiences, including which neighborhoods welcome you. You may get the message that racism is only happening to Black and brown people. But racism is a white person's problem, and we are all caught up in it. Mostly by refusing to look at it. You can face this. Understanding the truth takes courage, especially if it's a painful truth about your own people, even your own family. Even people you love may behave in ways that show they think they are the good ones. But racism was not your idea. You don't need to defend it. You can bring your curiosity to learn about it and see that it's true. Many white people did things they never should have done. Denied opportunity, denied housing, denied voting rights. Many other white people failed to see the problem with this. Those choices put wealth and power into white hands, white homes, and white neighborhoods. Racism is still happening. It keeps changing and keeps being the same. And yet, just being here, alive in this moment, you have a chance to care about this, to connect. But connecting means opening. And opening sometimes feels like breaking. Mom, I don't feel so good. I do see color. I see yours, mine, everybody's. You can't hide what's right in front of me. Go with your instincts on this one. Racial justice is possible, but only if we're honest with each other and ourselves. Your history is not written yet. What do you want it to say? And let me drop one more big idea on all of you, all our youth. Whether these ideas are old or new to you, whether they reflect your life experience or don't, a strong internal sense of justice will not fail you, even when a lack of justice in the world does. So go out into the world and grow justice. If it dies, plant it again and again. And I'd like to leave us with a question to talk with our loved ones about today. How will each of us work to grow justice in the coming days?
Thank you, Allison, for that powerful story. And hello and welcome everyone to the Sunday online assembly of First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis for July 19th, 2020. I'm the Reverend Kelli Clement, one of the assistant ministers here at FUS. I'm joined online today by the Reverend Dr. David Breeden, senior minister, Allison Wyeth, director of religious education, Barb Brooks, music director. Music today from Emma's Revolution and Committed. And we have an amazing tech team who is making today possible for all of us and all of you. Thank you for making the effort to be present with us today from wherever you are. First Unitarian Society is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. We are an intentionally and radically inclusive congregational humanist community dedicated to promoting a brave, free, and responsible search for purpose, meaning, and justice. Our theme for the months of July and August are Season of Change, Summer 2020 at FUS. You know by now that our building is closed and that this congregation is one of the open mind, the open hand, and the open heart. And you know this is the place where I tell you that the best way to find out what's going on at FUS is to carefully read our Friday emails and our monthly newsletter. That's where you'll find all the info about all the things that are happening at the Society. If you're not already on our email list, you can sign up for it on our website, firstunitarian.org. The sign-up link is right at the bottom of the homepage. And while you're on the website, you can poke around, find lots of information about what's happening at the Society, contact info for our ministers and staff, and ways to donate to our work in the world. Another good way to stay connected is via our Facebook group, which is titled Members and Friends of First Unitarian Society. We'd love to have you join the conversation there. And if you enjoy today's assembly, please like and subscribe online. You can find the description at the bottom of your screen. You'll see how you can support of our mission of congregational humanism at FUS. Even as many other parts of the wider community are opening up, First Unitarian Society will maintain an online-only Sunday morning presence for many months to come. Thank you again for joining us.
Each week when we gather, we light our chalice and share one of the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism, or one of the aspirations of our congregation. This week we light the chalice remembering the 2nd principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations.
In the strength of the Spirit, we are one. Hallelujah.
Now for our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Sigamos adelante, siempre adelante, siempre adelante, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Amaremos con pasión. Siempre con pasión. Siempre con pasión, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna reach across our border, reach across our border, reach across our border. Never turning back, never turning back. Vivamos sin fronteras, siempre sin fronteras, siempre sin fronteras, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna reunite the family, reunite the family, reunite the family, never turning back, never turning back. Familias reunidas, siempre reunidas, siempre reunidas, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna keep on moving forward, keep on moving forward, keep on moving forward, never turning back, 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 never turning back.
Peace.
We love you.
Each week when we gather, whether that be online or in our building, we pause for a few moments to reflect on the joys and the sorrows and the milestones of the human experience. We do this so that we stay in touch with our own humanity, We do this to remind ourselves of the value of just a few moments of silence, and we do this so that no one among us is alone, either in celebrating a joy or in facing the burdens of life. This week, I want to pause and think for a few moments about those suffering from this pandemic, whether people who are actually ill with the disease, people are fearful about getting the disease, people who have loved ones with the disease, people who are worried about loved ones. There's just a whole lot of worry and difficulty going on just now, and I hope that you are being very kind and gentle with yourself and those around you. Hold all of us in your heart and in your mind, and keep thinking in gratitude about those who help us, whether that be in working for justice or working for peace or working for health. Let's take a few moments of silence to reflect. As we come out of the silence, we will listen to our traditional musical response, and you are invited to sing along at home if you're so inclined.
We have our thoughts to receive.
In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, a line often read in meetings goes like this: "Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now." I've been thinking of this progression, what we were like, what happened, and what we are like now, in relation to the national movement for Black lives, and in evaluating systemic racism in our society as the result of an addiction to white supremacy culture. Something's happening here in Minneapolis and across our country. What we were like before and what we are like now is related to our relative privilege and social location. Black and brown people in our city and country, in our congregation and denomination, have been saying for years what it is like to be subject to micro and macro aggressions from good progressive white folks. Good progressive white folks in our city and country, in our congregation and denomination, have been saying for years, "But I'm not a racist," and "What can I do?" For many white people, like me, what we were like has been well-meaning, working for and voting for diverse political candidates, reading books on anti-racism and other oppressions, shaking our heads at our loved ones who may be the real racists in the family. And when it all gets to be too much, we may suffer from allyship fatigue. As Sharonda J. Brown of the Black Youth Project wrote in response to this notion of allyship fatigue, "I am not well. I don't have a diagnosis, but I know what this is. Trauma, depression, anxiety, fatigue, from surviving white supremacy and capitalism and fascism, all of the things they beget and the many ways they converge. These forces work together to ensure people like me will never be rested or healthy." Close quote. For many Black, Indigenous people and other people of color, there is no opportunity to step back, to take a break from the daily grind that is white supremacy culture. Our institutions are made up of us. Today, I want to spend some time about what we are doing at FUS, First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, to address systemic white supremacy culture and encourage diversity, inclusion, and equity. We'll also take a look at what our national organization, the Unitarian Universalist Association, is doing, and how we can continue to live ever more fully into our values of justice and liberation. This congregation has always been one that is predominantly white, which is also true of humanism and Unitarian Universalism in general. That is not to say that there are not and have not been Black people, Indigenous people, and other people of color who claim membership in these institutions today and in years far back. It is to say that whiteness is baked into our foundational bricks. FUS functions as a primarily white institution in a primarily white affluent neighborhood in a city that is only 64% white. Diversity, inclusion, and equity is a challenge. In June of 2019, then FUS board chair Holly Anderson brought forward the idea of creating a diversity, inclusion, and equity task force that would start with a couple of mandates to ensure that board, staff, and elected committees are empowered and encouraged to look at our practices and structures as a way to work toward greater inclusion in the congregation, and to recommend resources, opportunities, readings, etc., to ensure our congregation is inclusive and focused on equity. The board approved this proposal, the team was formed, and began meeting in September of 2019. We now have 3 board members, Amanda Harrington, Denise Victoria de Morelis, and Richard Sire. 3 other congregation members, Sue Blackwell, Perry Nixon, and Mindy Rieger, and 2 ministers, Rev, Jim, and myself, in our group, which we call Moving Toward Equity, the Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Team at FUS. Our work to date has included creating a rubric for various congregational groups to use when populating their membership, a set of questions to evaluate the needs of the group and what new members might bring to the group. We also are curating a resource list, which we will unveil today. You should see the link soon in the chat. This resource list is a work in progress with some of our recommendations for movies, books, online articles, websites, etc., to further our knowledge of systemic racism, other oppressions, and the effects of white supremacy culture, and also perhaps where we may best put our efforts for change. 5 of our 8 team members got together this week to create a short video to talk about our work. Here is Moving Toward Equity. It has been a great joy to work with Moving Toward Equity, the Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity team at First Unitarian Society. We have a few questions for some members of our team as a way for you to meet them. And I'll start with Sue Blackwell, one of our co-chairs of the team. And Sue, my question for you is, how do you hope that our congregation's engagement in this work will make a difference both inside FUS and beyond our walls in the wider world?
Well, I'm excited to do this work because it really needs to be done. The inequities generated by our educational and social and political systems and economic systems have been with us for a long time. And as a white woman, I have had an advantage in a lot of those systems. I am hoping that because there seems to be a new willingness to examine ourselves and change our behavior and be accountable for our behavior, that we will be able to change as a congregation, as individuals, and affect change in our community and the world.
Thank you, Sue. Next, I'll ask Richard Sire this question. Richard, why is doing the work of diversity, inclusion, and equity at FUS important to you?
In addition to environmental protection, I think these principles and the large issues surrounding them are really the issues in the United States for this year, this decade, this century. And I think we need to be continually examining and suppressing kind of that human impulse towards greed. And I think we need to really focus to assure that people's basic needs, their rights, and their dignity is what's prioritized. And FUS has been an important part of my community for 20 years, and I think it is a great setting in which to do the reflecting, the self-examination, the change, and the advocacy work that we can be a part of.
Wonderful. Thank you, Richard. Amanda Harrington shares the co-chair duties with Sue Blackwell. Thank you for that leadership. And the question I'll ask you is the same one I asked Sue. How do you hope that FUS's engagement in this work will
make a difference both within our congregation and beyond our walls?
My hope is that FUS members can move beyond just saying that we believe in justice and equity and the inherent worth and dignity of all people and acceptance. I have not always felt welcomed at FUS for a variety of reasons, and I don't want anyone else to feel that way. So my hope is really that by engaging in this work with us, FUS members can take actions and change their behaviors that help all people to feel welcome and included at FUS and ideally in the broader community.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And Mindy Rieger, this question for you: what inspires you to do this work?
Well, I feel inspired to do work related to diversity, equity, and inclusion based on my own experience as a disabled woman, but also in my professional life. I spend a lot of time connecting with families and kids at a public library setting, and this has really shown me that there's a lot that needs to change in the systems that we have in place.
Thank you. Thanks, Mindy. There are 3 members of our team who were not able to join us for our recording tonight, and those are Perry Nixon, Denise Victoria de Morales, and Reverend Jim Fody. And we are so grateful for their participation in moving toward equity. Look for more from this team. We're hoping that you'll hear a lot about what we're doing, and we invite you to be a part of our work as well. Thank you.
Special thanks to Justice Bovee for putting together this piece. It will take local and national focus to change our culture. Unitarian Universalism has no mother church, no hierarchy that tells us what we must do. Rather, we are an association of congregations that covenant together to honor our 7 principles, organize together for justice and liberation, and share theological practice and debate. There are 2 things on the national scene that I want to bring to your attention. One is the 8th Principle Project, a movement to add the language of beloved community, accountability, anti-racism, and other repressions into our principles. Congregations across the US and Canada are adopting the 8th Principle, and over the next 3 General Assemblies, our association will vote on moving forward with the revised principles. Our Moving Toward Equity team is in the early stages of bringing this work to FUS. We are excited to learn what has worked and what has not worked in other congregations, and we know that signing on to affirm the 8th Principle is just the beginning of the work to make it live in our congregation. The other exciting work at the national level is the publication of the Commission on Institutional Change's report, Widening the Circle of Concern. A 3-year process of inquiry and deep analysis led to this critical statement. The report says this: the world around us is different than it was a decade ago or even 5 years ago. The question is, how will our living tradition keep up with the times? What choices will we make or fail to make? And how will that affect the relevancy and survival of our faith? And this is the question, I think, for all of us. What choices will I make or fail to make? And how will those choices affect the relevancy and survival of my integrity, of the integrity of our beloved FUS, of our nation? Reverend David said a few weeks back that the right question to ask is not, am I safe, but are we ready? Because what we were like is no longer enough, because something has happened from which we cannot turn back, and because what we are like now must be ready. The supremacy of whiteness is sewn into the very fabric of this nation. So the task before all of us is mighty. We will need every one of us to find our lane, to learn and listen, to get ready for the cultural shift that is long, long overdue in this country. May we never turn back from our promise to love all of humanity. Never turn back to mere comfort when liberation is ahead.
If you will repeat with me, please, our extinguishing chalice words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again. Thank you for joining us in this season of change, our summer programming for the summer of 2020. And we need you to help us keep the voice of Unitarian Universalist humanism alive and strong. We need you as a volunteer. We have lots of volunteer opportunities, and we also need your financial support. Go to firstunitarian.org to give, or email me, minister@firstunitarian.org, if you would like to find out about our volunteer opportunities. Until we meet again, ask questions, hold on to what is good, strengthen the weak, comfort the fearful, serve the suffering, do what makes you come alive, because we need more people in this world who have come alive. Rejoice in the power of the human spirit. So may it be. Thanks for listening. You can find much more about humanism and what's happening at First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis by visiting our website at firstunitarian.org.